Welcome to the Steel Birds podcast, starring your hosts Corey King and Harry Brockington the fourth, aka Brock.
Boy, Brock.
What's
Yes,
good?
sir.
How you doing?
Doing good. What about
Yeah,
yourself?
I'm good, man. I forgot to mention to our listeners last podcast. We're in the off season right now, but when the season comes, you really want to listen to this podcast because Brock is the parlay king. This nigga hits 7 plus 15 to 1 parlays every year. I try and
Yeah,
tail him, and I never hit with the ones that he has whenever I tail, but he got the parlays down. So, when the season comes around, I'm sure he's gonna have some picks and some odds to pay attention to and some stuff. So y'all need to lock in. How do you
I
like
try
you
my
like
best.
the Parlay King nickname, or what do you
You
prefer?
know what? Until I hit like a real big one and it's consistent, I can't take that name. I do okay. I do okay, but
What's
you
what's
know,
uh what's a big one to you? Like a
man,
$12,000
no, I need like 20K and up type thing. You know what I'm saying? Like 20, 30. Because
greedy.
yes, greedy. Because I follow all the the betting guys on Twitter and some on IG.
Yeah,
Bleacher Report stuff, and it's like you've seen some of these dudes like they're
correct
putting what like
scores for
400.
20,000.
Right,
Yeah,
they're putting 400 to win like 120,000. It's like, bro, that's life changing stuff. Like,
yeah.
and I'm over here every once in a while. I'll get my little 2K or whatever, and then when I tell people that, they're like, "All right, your little 2K." I'm like, but it's just it's not. I'm doing this every like 2 weeks or so. It's not even
Shit,
like that.
that's 2 more weeks than me. I was
So,
over my parlays this year.
so
we
yeah,
gonna we gonna
no,
change that.
yeah, I'm gonna get more consistent with it.
But all right. Well, if you're ready, we can just transition to our teams now. I think it's
Let's get
time.
into
Yeah,
it.
good.
Let's get it.
All right, bet. All right. Um, we can start with the Eagles. I think this is going to be a heavy Steelers pod. So, the breaking news during last week's was Kenny Pickett got traded to the Eagles for a conditional 6, I think, or they swapped 6.
Um,
I forgot. It was a late pick, 6 or 7.
Yeah, so you guys gave us your conditional third this year and 2 7s in
Oh, okay.
25, and then you guys got we had 2 4s, and you get our late fourth round pick, which was like 189, I believe it was.
Okay.
So
Yes. Yeah. So, Kenny Pickett didn't have a great start to his career, being like a first round pick quarterback.
right,
Kind of came into a tough situation. So,
yeah.
just want to ask you your thoughts. How did you feel about him when? Let me ask, how did you feel when he got drafted? And then, after like maybe the first year or two, how did you think? And, as last year went the way it did, how did your like feelings about him go during those times?
Man, it's been like a it's been like a roller coaster with that dude because that year I knew we were gonna choose a quarterback, and we needed the Ben
Right.
air. We needed that to happen because we knew Mason wasn't the dude. But that year was not a great year for quarterbacks. Everybody, if you follow anybody on Twitter, or you follow the draft, you knew that year wasn't a good year for quarterbacks, and it was more like dudes who had potential. Where if they go to the right team, then maybe they could be something better than what everyone thought. And so at that time, it was like we're either going to take Malik or him. I remember like leading up to it, like people
You
were
didn't want
saying,
my guy Desmond Ritter.
yeah, I remember you told me about Desmond Ritter. And I was like, I mean,
He's still QB1.
it's easy to say now, like, yeah, like
Right.
but same thing happened to my dude. So, but it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I really thought it was like between Malik and Kenny, and I knew I seen that Mike Tomlin really liked Malik, and stuff like that. He was at his pro day, shaking hands, and he had like
Yeah.
a bomb that he threw at the end, and he went up to him and they like chest bump. So it was like that type of thing. Um, but then I seen Kenny Pickett and was like, they talk about, they seen him in the building all the time because he was already at Pitt and all that. So I was already a little bit, worried because he's older. That was his fifth year, and it was like that was his really big year that he had.
Right.
Um, And so it was just like, okay, we'll see what happens. We have Mitch that we had for the bridge QB, and he doesn't do his thing. So Kenny comes in, and Kenny kind of shows some promise. He shows that he's accurate. He could run. That was something that like Steelers fans, like I remember, like I guess the last 3 years of Ben's career, and then a little bit after that, everyone's like, whatever QB we get, like please let him be athletic, please allow him to be able to run, because we were just so sick
Right.
of seeing Ben like knees shot, you could tell. And so he showed a little bit of promise of that. It's just not the biggest arm, and then there's the whole hand thing. So his rookie year, he had some good, come from behind drive and stuff like that, and like that was exciting to me. Seeing him run, throw on the run, stuff like that, it was cool. So there was things that I saw that I didn't necessarily like, but there were some things I seen. I'm like, all right, I like that. And so then we go to last year, and it just kind of like it completely fell apart for me, because he rides it, the last two games, which was we played the Raiders and the Ravens the last 2 weeks. He comes from behind in those games, and we're leading into the preseason. Now he only played like a couple of drives in the games in the preseason, but he was precise, accurate. We're winning by like what 2-3 touchdowns. They take him out, whatever. It's the preseason, but like he's looking
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
And then none of that was there, once the season started, none of it. And so he has this issue where he spins out of the pocket, I should say, very early sometimes, and he usually spins right into a defender. It's not like most athletic quarterbacks where they're spinning out and then they either just try to get some yards, or they might throw on the run. But this dude, he spins, and he always spins right, and he spins right into a defender. And I'm guessing obviously when they're watching film, they're keying in on that, because every single time he does it, he always gets tackled. So they kind of know that he does that. But just a lot of though, that's one bad tendency I don't like that he did. He could sail and be really inaccurate in like the short to mid range route tree, which was really weird, because he really wasn't like that his rookie year. Missed a lot of throws to GP where he showed his his attitude towards that. He didn't appreciate obviously him missing him wide open and stuff like that. So I don't know, man. It was just big time roller coaster with him. And it's unfortunate, to your point, like you said, he didn't really get the fair shake, because I think most people knew we were supposed to fire Matt Canada a long time ago. And so I feel like even though that set him back a little bit, I don't know if it would have made the biggest difference, having a competent OT, and then is he still just, meh, is he still just average? So I can be on both sides, but at the end of the day, he just wasn't a dude that's going to push a team into that AFC Championship, Super Bowl type of thing. He's just not.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Yeah, like I said, coming into that draft, all the QBs weren't really getting a ton of praise, so everyone was kind of all over the place. Who was QB1? How are they gonna shake out? And I think I had him second after Desmond Ritter, and then after that rookie year, I was like, I don't know. He looks pretty good compared to Desmond Ritter, but I guess they both kind of fizzled out. I just have some stats here. He had one multi-touchdown game in his career, and Tommy DeVito had 2 in his short span of this year, which is crazy. Out of 315 quarterbacks to throw at least 500 passes in their career, Kenny Pickett is 315th in touchdowns per throw, which is fucking insane for a quarterback. Just like to not be able to score touchdowns, like that's like the main, completions is one thing, but like those completions need to turn into touchdowns. You want to complete the passes you throw, but eventually you got to get them in the end zone. So
right, man, crazy. And I believe that one game you're talking about might have been the game after Matt Canada gets fired, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been the game.
Who'd you play that game? You remember?
Might have been the Browns. Is that what it says?
Raiders.
The Raiders.
What week was that? Week 3?
Oh, okay, that's week 3. So that's when he threw I think Calvin Austin, and then he threw to Pat Freiermuth, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I remember that one. Yeah.
But one thing that he does well that I like is he does protect the ball well. He had a 1.8% turnover worthy play rate per PFF, which is second best in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is 8th last year, which is good because Jalen Hurts is and what was surprising about him last year, he actually had a few more picks than like you would have thought, but overall he still didn't have that many turnover worthy plays.
Right.
And for those who don't know, like what a turnover worthy play is, basically it's a pass that is considered like interceptable or like being careless with the ball and fumbling. So like it's not just interceptions, because sometimes you look at a QB stats and it's like, oh, we only had one interception, but it's like, a Brock Purdy famously is one of those guys who just has like insane interception luck, and it's like he can throw it right to a defender and it just gets dropped. So like that's just a good stat to keep in mind, because
Right.
people will forget like, oh, a pass got dropped that should have been an interception, but for PFF it's like that's a turnover worthy play, so
Right.
it's good that at least Kenny was good at taking care of the ball. So
Yeah,
it'll
for the most
definitely
part,
be
he didn't have
interesting
too
to
many
see.
fumbles. So
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how he'll, like develop in this Kellen Moore offense for the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts too. Like we'll see how both of them, kind of
right.
perform, and
I'm sure you'll see a
maybe
lot of him in preseason. Get to see some things. I'm sure obviously Jalen won't play at all in preseason, so you'll get to see a lot of him.
Yeah,
Out of Kenny.
yeah. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, that's basically all I got for that. And then the big news, I think, was it the same day, or when did Justin Fields get traded?
No, okay. So I remember because we recorded the pod on Friday, and then
All right.
I was in San Diego
Oh,
the next day,
Saturday.
and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
when it's like right when I got there. That's when it happened.
Yep.
And so yeah, man, Jay Fields.
Yeah. What were your initial reactions to it? What'd you think?
Man, in real time, it was crazy. Like I get to San Diego and I look at my phone and that's the notification I have, and I'm like all the edits. Like that's the one time all the edits of a dude going to a team was like
Right.
that was it was realistic. It was cool to see that. So
yeah, because aesthetically, that was a great fit. Like because Justin Fields has one thing, he could be a bad QB, but he gonna look good. Like
right. No, he got swag to him and shit like that. So, but yeah, bro, I feel like with both the moves that we made, even the Russ one too, like we didn't give up anything. Like at the end of the day, in a few years or so, you could say those are bad moves if they both, don't perform, which in my opinion, it would be hard for both of them to be bad. I still think Russ got a little bit left, but I just don't feel like both of them are gonna, they're gonna both, swing and miss type of thing. But we didn't, give up much, for the Justin one here. So we gave a 6th-round pick not this draft, in the 25 draft. That turns into a 4th if he plays 51% of the snaps, and that would only happen if he was the starter, obviously. Or starts, majority of the season, I should say. So, basically a 6th-round pick if Russ does his thing and, starts majority of the season or the whole season. And then if, Russ gets hurt or it's not what we think or what he's supposed to be, then, okay, it turns into a 4th for the next season. So it's not even a big thing. And so, I don't know, for the Bears, man, I understand you got Caleb Williams right there. And it's not what I would say is if they didn't have the first pick, who knows if they do this? You know what I mean? Like if they just have that number 9 pick, do they try to trade up?
for sure.
You know what I mean? If they just had that number 9 pick, you just get Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, or turn that to, you know what I'm saying? Like there's other options.
Yeah. Or if even they still had the pick, but Bryce Young had a better rookie year, or even if he had a CJ Stroud year and the pick ended up being middle first rounds, like do they use both those picks to move up, or do they just build around Justin? So
that's my thing. Is like I don't really see that being a thing that they do if that's what would have happened. And so when you're in that position and there is a great QB class, but then the 1A dude is that good, I understand that you got to do your due diligence and do what you got to do.
And the contract is a big part of it too, because you have to pay. You either have to pick up Justin Fields' 5th-year option, which I think is like $23 million or something, or extend him. And it's hard. It's hard to win when you have to pay a QB a lot of money, unless you're the fucking Chiefs, I guess. But everyone else, when you start having to pay, it's hard.
Right. It's easy to just fork out the money when the dude is proven. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
when you know that's the dude. It's not obviously.
ask the Giants. They
Yeah.
paid him.
Right.
They paid him a year early. They paid Daniel Jones a year early. Now they're like, now you're hearing rumors they're trying to get a QB maybe. So like,
Yeah. I
you
definitely
know,
believe that. I think they're gonna roll with him this year, but I think
yeah,
he's done after that. But yeah,
yeah,
that's a great example. So
yeah,
um, to all that, I feel um he didn't play lights out, and I don't think anybody would say he played lights out, but he had a lot of great flashes, and I feel like a lot of the negatives is just like he didn't have much around him. Like he had DJ, this year, and they kind of did their thing together. Um, but I just don't feel like for his, the majority of the time that he's been there was an urgency to make sure he was set up like they just finished doing for Caleb.
yeah,
You've seen how they're scrambling basically to make sure, we know he's this good, but let's make sure he has all these security blankets to make sure it's even better for him. And I just don't feel like they gave Justin that same type of urgency where come on, like as if
yeah,
almost to say, like, yeah, if we don't do this right now, we're gonna get fired. And they know now with Caleb, if it doesn't happen with him, they are. So I feel like he should have got the same shake. And so I feel like in no way do I feel like he's a bust or anything like that. I really want to see what he's like with Mike Tomlin, as a head coach. I want to kind of see what Arthur Smith is going to do, for
yeah.
him and
Same,
things like
same.
that. So I think, there's no way we could really lose in both of those situations. So I'm excited for him, but don't know if, at this point, if it's going to be a true QB battle where it's like there's a possibility he goes into week one being the starter, but he's obviously going to get his shot at a certain point so that we can see if he's going to be the franchise dude. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
excited for him.
yeah. 2 points I wanted to make off that. The first would be like the Steelers are always, at least under Mike Tomlin, they're always going to be too good to be at that bottom of the draft or top of the draft to like get a pick like that. So, I always think like this was just such like a no-brainer move because you guys at worst have a 1 year starter between Russ and Justin Fields. Like one of them has to win the battle, and
Right.
you at least see what you have this year. And at worst, with if Justin Fields wins the battle and ends up showing promise, you have a long-term starter, and you don't have to worry about QB for a while. So
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
a no-brainer move for y'all,
Right.
especially
Right.
because you're always going to be a good team for the most part, and not have
Exactly.
to like be at that top of the draft trying to draft some QB coming out of college most of the time. So
Right. Right.
um, and then I want to ask you if you had to like say right now, as of March 22nd, like what week is Justin Fields like named the starter? What would you guess?
Man, I think if Mike T gives him a fair shot and like it's a true QB battle, I think he can start week one, bro. Like
Really?
I and it's different because we got Russ, and then like only like a week and a half later we got Justin, or like 2 weeks. It was not that much longer, so it's not like in those situations where the dude is getting a head start on the playbook. He's meshing with receivers are going to Florida or somewhere to go throw, and they're
Right.
kind of getting the camaraderie ready and all that stuff. It's not like that. They're basically there at the same time, and so there is no we're about to go to somebody's beach house and just throw and do like no, and he's not getting the playbook down months in advance. So it's like if it's a true QB battle by then, he should be able to beat him out. I mean, his
Yeah.
running ability is definitely already way better. He's a decade younger. He still has his burst and stuff like that. It's just like, are you going to get the offense down, obviously, and like, are you going to make the accurate throws? Because I'll tell you right now, if Russ in camp is making all throws over the middle, which is what Steelers fans we've been hammering that for years. Like we want to be able to see an offense where they're throwing over the middle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some accurate quarterbacks since Ben. If Russ is doing that and Justin's missing throws, and it's already a wrap, because I can already tell you, like Mike Tomlin, he's not gonna start the dude that's missing the throws and can't hit the guys over the middle and stuff like that. But if he's throwing bombs, bro, and he's not throwing picks, and Russ happens to just not stay healthy throughout, because this is obviously a long process when it comes to camp, and unfortunately, you never get to see certain dudes because they get injured. Um, so I think it's there for Justin to take. So
Yeah.
I would say if all that goes like I just said, I feel like he could start week one, and I'd like to see that. So
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Yeah, to your point about like throwing over the middle of the field, I actually was looking into it because I hear or like I see on Twitter and stuff people say like Arthur Smith like attacks the middle of the field, but I couldn't really find any stats to like back that up
Yeah.
with his offenses. And per Sports Info Solutions, they say that Desmond Ritter ranked 26th, Russ was 27th, Justin Fields was 30th out of 32 QBs to throw the like percentage of their passes over the middle of the field. So
Yep.
that's none of those QBs throw over the middle of the field, so I don't think it's going to be a problem for Arthur Smith. But that is something that like I would like to see y'all do because I mean like that's the best offenses are the ones that can attack the entire field, especially the middle of the
Exactly.
field, like 49ers, Packers, those Shanahan, McVay offenses,
Exactly.
they attack the middle of the field. But yeah,
And that's
so
that's that's like a lot of what you see, like, some of the casual fans are saying on Twitter and stuff like that. Like, that's what we, because that's what we've wanted. We want, middle of the field. But then, a lot of the analysts, they're just like, well, if you look at the numbers, Russ didn't really throw and hasn't really over the course of his whole career
yeah,
thrown over the middle of the field that
yeah,
well. Justin hasn't. But the plan is that I've seen is the plan that they want whoever is starting to be able to do that, because he is going to implement some of them things outside of whatever his main offense is, which is the play action, the dual
yeah,
threat stuff that is something that they want to be implemented. So that's why they want them to be able to, whoever is starting to do that. But yeah, to your point, they haven't done that. So whoever
yeah,
is in that role is going to have to do it, because that is what I've seen, is that they want whoever is QB1 to be able to do that, because
yeah,
we have, I guess, the receiver now, and GP that can run any route. And he's gonna, most of the time, if the ball isn't even, accurate, he's gonna make it accurate. He's gonna say, but to your
yeah,
point, over the middle, that's gonna be like something that's gonna be big for him and whoever else we get for, our wide receiver 2 role. So yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely gonna be important moving forward. So we'll see how it
yeah,
goes.
yeah. And you can, and that's not even to say like you need to attack the middle of the field necessarily like to be successful. Like
Right.
I don't think Jalen Hurts really has thrown over the middle. It's been a little more now since we've had AJ Brown, but as of last year at least, I mean our offense was a joke by the end of the year, but uh, he was Jalen Hurts was 31st in percent of passes over the middle of the field, and Kenny Pickett was 32nd, which is
Wow.
hilarious. So all these QBs we're talking about for our teams, just don't attack the middle of the field. Doesn't mean the offense is not going to
Cooked
be
or
good,
anything.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that's just something that people do notice, especially Russ because it's been his whole career. These other QBs at least are younger, and
Younger. Yeah.
maybe they can develop into doing something like that. Um, but yeah, no. To your point, like with just Russ, being named the starter, I don't really understand why that had to be like said. I don't know like the necessarily like the reasoning behind like going out of their way to say he's the starter, but
See, with that,
do you have a reason why? Yeah.
so my understanding with everything was that before all that even happened, it was Kenny and Mason are gonna battle it out.
Mhm.
Omar had already came out and said we have full faith in Kenny, but because obviously he got injured, he didn't play. Mason rode that hot streak at the end. Obviously, he's gonna get the chance. He's not gonna be QB3 anymore. He's QB2. We're either gonna add like a Ryan Tannehill guy for 3 because we got Arthur Smith as an OC, or a late draft guy. But that was the plan. They said Kenny, but he's not. It's not gonna get handed to him. He has to work for it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, you know, we're hearing Mason like, if I get some attention, I might want to leave. But that was still the narrative. And then when Russ is coming in, I guess obviously they talked to him about it and they told Kenny, this is what we're doing, and he was all for it. Like, as long as we're competing. But I guess somewhere in the inside, behind closed doors, there was a talk with uh, Mike T and Kenny saying like, yeah, it's going to be a competition, and vets usually get the one reps when it comes to spring and stuff like that. And for some reason, he was like turned off by that, where he thought that he should have just be getting the 1 reps, and I guess Russ works in, and then it becomes the battle when they start camp. So I'm not really sure why that bothered him. But then, obviously before he gets traded, a lot of stuff starts coming out now about at the end of the year, where when he messes up his ankle, he comes back. He thinks he's going to be, implemented back into being the starter. He's not. And he thought there was big miscommunication between that. And it was said that he told them, I'm not going to be the emergency QB.
Right.
So,
That's I remember seeing stuff
yeah.
about
So
that.
Mason was the starter. Mitch was QB2. And then he was going to be, and he was saying, like, why would I do that? They asked him about it in real time. And of course he says, no, that's not what it was. And so then it kind of comes out that from that point, everybody kind of lost some faith in him because of how he acted.
Mm.
TJ, Cam, Hayward, and Minka, leaders on the defense, they were recruiting Russ. Then that comes out that they were even though they were still cool, with Kenny, they were recruiting Russ because they knew we needed elite QB play. And so you're a first round pick, and if your teammates really believe in you, there's no way that the leaders of the defense go and recruit a dude, basically to tell Mike Tomlin, like, we need this. And so to answer your question, man, like, yeah, I don't know why they needed to say that, but regardless, it's like, if you're the competitor you say you are and you have no issues and everything is cool, then it really shouldn't matter, because if you're better, and you're going to get your shot no matter what. And so I kind of, when that came out, obviously if you're not really following the, the inside closed doors thing, it's kind of, yeah, they didn't really need to say that. And that kind of messed with Kenny. But also it was like, he already kind of had a reputation of, if he's kind of feels like he's threatened or there's any type of, competitiveness, he's going to shot, kind of back up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can't be QB1 and have that type of personality.
Hell
You can't.
no. Let me
No.
tell you firsthand, the Carson Wentz experience was exactly that. They said he got
Right.
babied when he was brought into the organization, and he was treated as like some golden child, and
Mm.
he got banged up and then wasn't really performing. Then they bring in Jalen Hurts and he crumbles underneath that pressure of trying to not have Jalen Hurts like replace him, because you bring a Jalen Hurts into a locker room, people are gonna naturally like gravitate towards him and love him, and Carson Wentz was not fucking with that, so
Yeah.
it really messed with his mental.
There's obviously personalities. There's personalities and
Right.
stuff like that in
Yeah.
locker rooms and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, when dudes, specifically the leaders of the locker room, vet dudes, just see that you have a competitive fire about you. You hear about how people in the Titans locker room love Will Levis because of his attitude. He's a rookie, but he's very competitive. He has a fiery personality. Football is that type of sport, man. You can't show any type of weakness like that. And so when people are seeing that you're shying away from competition, how can they trust you in the AFC championship game? Whoever you're playing, that's competition. You have to go out there and show everybody like this is time, like it's time to go. And
Yeah.
he just wasn't on that type of time. And so then you got Russ, who was going to be the kiss the baby dude, who's going to be like, bring in Patrick Mahomes, man. Like, you know how he is, man. And he did
Yeah.
it when, right when the Justin Fields thing comes out,
Right.
fire QB room. He's tweeting, fire QB room, welcome, whatever. And even if he doesn't believe that, you got to play the game. And people will be annoyed by how he chooses to kind of do that. But that's being smart, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you can say he's corny, but you can't say anything negative about him praising somebody coming in. Whereas Kenny, man, you shine away from competition. I don't want you. I'm not running out there with you. I'll tell you
Right.
that.
Right.
So,
Especially as QB, that's the one position where everyone's looking to you to.
right.
You're supposed to be the leader and the
Yeah.
face
And
of
you
the
already not
franchise.
playing tip top, bro. You're already not
Right.
playing lights out,
Right.
bro. So it's
Right.
not even like you're on some Josh Allen, Joe Burrow type stuff. And even then, you probably shouldn't be doing that. But it would, it would give you a little bit more room to be acting like that. But bro,
Yeah.
you were nowhere near doing that. So it's like you
Yeah.
don't have that
That's a
chance
good
to do
point.
that.
Yeah,
So
the audacity to have that attitude when you haven't proven anything in the league
right,
since you've been in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I pulled up because when you were talking about that Week 17 stuff. I remember recently seeing like a tweet about because when he had his press conference with the Eagles since he's been traded, they asked him about it, and he said, and I quote, "There was a plan for that game. It went down exactly the way it was planned to go down that entire week. And I was coming off the ankle surgery, so it is what it is. And like I've been saying, though, I'm very happy to be here." So I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean, but to me, I think that just proves that he asked to be the emergency QB that week and just refused and doesn't want to
Yeah.
like look bad, and
Yeah.
even though
He
it
lied
was
about
all
it
on
for
him.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't know what that there was a plan for that game and it went down the way it's supposed to go down. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Like,
just more of like, it's like coach talk. They say like
yeah,
he's just trying to like mince words. And even
yeah,
to that, there was another time where, and I believe it was after that game, he's being asked, Kenny, did you really learn anything from, you haven't been in that position in a while. You've always been the starter, even in college or whatever. You haven't really been on the sidelines. Were you able to learn anything from that? And you could kind of tell, like, even before the reporter finishes the question, that he's already ready to say something negative. And he ends up saying right after she finishes, no, like just like that.
mm,
And it just ends really weird like that, where they don't
yeah,
ask any more questions. But it's like, there's something about him where it's like if he feels a little threatened or somebody's, on him about something, he can't just, be the poster boy, whatever you want to call it, and just say the right thing. It's not hard. Even if you don't believe that in that moment,
yeah.
it's really not hard. Do you think that Patrick Mahomes wanted to say all those weeks that his wide receivers were dropping the ball and all this stuff is going wrong, that he wanted to say, that's on me? I got to throw a better ball to MVS.
Right,
Are you got
right.
it? Come on, man. But he knows he's playing the game. He already knows who he is, but he's playing the game too. And it's like, you're a dude that hasn't even become close to that, that level. And you got to just play the game for a little bit when you're kind of in the fire like that. And so,
Yeah,
good luck to him with y'all. And hopefully he's able to maybe, show enough to maybe go to another team after y'all and become a starter again. Who knows? I know the
yeah,
Saints liked him a lot in the draft, and they don't like using first round picks on quarterbacks. So
yeah.
them
Facts.
getting him could be a thing, but got to mature and kind of grow up. And so I'm happy with the QBs that we got, and hopefully we get it going.
Yeah, I mean, fucking Sam Darnold got a $10 million contract with the Vikings
Vikings,
after
yeah,
playing what he played a quarter versus the Ravens and started Week 18 versus the
right,
Rams, and that. Hey, so Kenny Pickett just has to show a little promise to
a little
maybe
bit,
get
yeah,
that. But yeah, but just going back, back to Justin Fields. Speaking of all this, like I couldn't imagine a world where Justin Fields was acting and speaking this way, and it would have been cool. Like if he was pulling the same shit Kenny Pickett was, people would be going
cooked.
insane. Like,
He's
yeah,
cooked.
yeah, because even the little tidbit he had where he kind of like blamed his coaches for him like thinking too much and all that. Like when he was
Yeah.
trying to like give the media more, that blew up out of proportion. I couldn't imagine him not dressing for a week or something, and then
Or saying something negative like that.
yeah, yeah,
And even to
as
that, I
bad a
forgot
press he
about that.
gets. Yeah,
I forgot about that. I think right after that happened, he did like an emergency
yeah, he
press
did.
where he told
Yeah,
me, yeah, which I
in
I
the
have
locker
never
room.
I have
Yeah,
never seen that happen. But why did he even have to do it? Because he already knew, he kind of like misspoke type of thing. But yeah, to your point, you don't see that happening, anywhere else. And if he were to have done what Kenny did, yeah, it would have been way worse. And the league already kind of tried to show him like we don't see you as a starter. So him having that attitude towards the end of this season, if he would have done that, I don't even know if we get him, because Mike T, he obviously he sees Justin's talent, but if you're going to be acting like that, he's a guy that takes dudes who may be immature, have some issues, but seeing that and knowing that it's going to be your QB1, I think it's a little bit different than some of the other positions. So,
for sure.
yeah, he definitely would have been, I think cooked a lot worse than what he already was. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and then just to since we're back on the Justin Fields conversation, I just had some stats here. I feel like like you said, like towards the end of last season, he showed a lot of promise, and there were like some stats that like proved that. One of them being, you know, um, per PFF, like they track like the percentage of pressures that were considered the QB's fault. Like sometimes it's alignment's fault, but like sometimes the QB held the ball too long, or
Right.
spun into pressure, or
Right.
did something like that. So per PFF, out of 43 QBs, Russell Wilson was first. He had the highest percentage of pressures that were his fault. And Justin Fields was ninth, and Jalen Hurts was second. So it's not,
Oh, wow.
it's not. It was a rough year for those QBs. But that being said, the last 6 weeks of 2023, Justin Fields was 15th, and Russ was 5th. So that just goes to show. I feel like he was able to get more comfortable in the offense, and you saw it in his play. Like he wasn't taking as many sacks.
Yeah.
The numbers show the pressures weren't as much his fault, and he was able to execute and make plays. And he was 4th in PFF grade on 20 plus yard throws, and Russ was 11th. In the last 6 weeks, Justin Fields was 5th, and Russ was 16th out of 40 QBs. So just
Okay.
just I just feel like given the opportunity to like really show what he can do now that he's more comfortable in the league will go a long way for a young QB versus
Definitely.
a guy like Russ. I feel like is on the back end of his career and like should be lucky that he has his opportunity to start, because
definitely.
Just even like another like deep stat, deep throw stat. Justin Fields was 23 for 52 on deep throws, and 5 of those were drops. So if you add in those 5, he would have had almost 54% completion percentage on deep throws, which would have ranked 4th in the NFL. Like after I think it's after like Matthew Stafford.
And when they say deep throws, does it say
that's
like
20
how
plus.
long? 20 plus.
20 plus.
Okay. So that's
20
that's
plus
not
air
bad.
yards. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, for those who don't know, air yards is from the line of scrimmage to where the pass was like intended. So sometimes a quarterback will throw a ball at the line of scrimmage and someone will take it to the house per the 49ers always get away with it with Debo and George Kittle, all these yak guys. So like sometimes QBs get away with like not having a far like air yards per attempt are low, but Justin Fields is attacking like deep downfield, and I think he had an 8.0 air yards per attempt, which was middle of I think it ranked like middle of the league, and Russ was near bottom, as was Kenny Pickett too.
Right. Yeah, man.
So yeah.
I mean, I do believe that the Bears, they could have done. And we can transition to the needs and the wants for free agency after this, but I just feel like they could have done a lot more, and I feel like coming to Pittsburgh, he's gonna have already number 1 receiver in George Pickens, who is gonna whether he's throwing it accurate all the time or not, he's gonna do his best to come down with those balls, like you just said. The deep balls, he's going to complete a lot more of those, and then we're going to get whether it's a big trade before the draft or using the draft to get a wide receiver too, and so he's just going to have a lot more around him. The run game is going to be huge because we already have the two-headed monster with Najee and Jalen, and so that also opens up his his running ability with defenses already knowing that they have to key in on both of those dudes.
Yeah.
And so it's just going to be a lot more of him not trying to hit those home run balls and stuff like that. And it's going to be more of him just trusting himself and trusting the offense and just taking what the defense is giving him. And I feel like that's just more of what he needs to get in a rhythm of doing, is just taking what's there and not
trusting
trying to
the offense and doing what's asked of him and not having to be like a hero
all the time,
especially
even
when you're going to have right, especially when you're going to have a defense that's going to be top of the league. You don't have to worry about trying to do too much, just execute, and you should be able to be good. But yeah, that's a great point, because I was going to get into that, like, of just like the ability to have an athlete who is, what is he, 6'3",
GP 6'3", 220.
yeah, and Justin too, right? He's what is he? How tall is how big is
Justin
Justin?
6'3" as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and runs a
Yeah.
4.4. Like,
Yeah.
since I pulled up, I just wanted to know like how good of a runner is Justin Fields for real. And since 2022, he has 42 runs that were 10 yards or longer, which is sixth most among any position in the league. First for quarterbacks, obviously. So if you have a QB that is able to bust out 10-yard runs like a running back, you got to use
Whenever.
that. And the Bears
Right.
last year didn't really, they used it some in 2022, like they used designed QB runs more, but
Yeah.
I didn't see it a lot in 2023, and it showed. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
When he was running, it was
so
because he's running for his life type
yeah,
of thing. Like
yeah,
he was
right,
running to like score, and sometimes those times he did score. But now I feel like, to your point, he can run when he needs to,
yeah,
or there will be more designed runs for him. And
yeah,
also, even with that, he's not a dude who's not available. So his running is not a detriment to his play style. Like some people will say, like with Cam and
yes,
stuff like that, where like he got banged up. He's shown to be very available. So him running is not going to be a big issue, and he's not
yeah,
going to have to do it as much now because we have two reliable running backs. So
yeah,
it's all right there for him to take, and if he doesn't take it, then in this situation is going to be probably 100% on him.
yeah,
And so we'll see what he does with it when he gets his
yeah.
chance.
Just let him be an athlete. Like Russ, again, like another one. Since 2022, Russell Wilson he has 51 sacks on third and fourth down, which is first in the league. Like Justin Fields is going to be able to like run around, make a play, do something. Like I
Right.
don't want to see Russell Wilson drop back and spin into pressure and get sacked. Like
No.
I'd rather see
Yeah.
Justin Fields out there for
I definitely don't want to see
y'all's
that.
sake. And like you
Right.
said, like his running ability is like a, a benefit because my last little stat here, because I wanted to like just see like all this like Russ Wilson and Justin Fields stuff in terms of like their abilities to like do stuff as athletes. Because Russ
Right.
back in the day was much different than he is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the things I saw was per Sports Info Solutions, Justin Fields was sixth in on target percentage when throwing on the move. So that's,
Mm.
Designed rollouts, play action, those type of things where like he gets like a half field read. He can either run or make the right throw, and he doesn't have to think and just be an athlete, do his
Right.
thing. Sixth in the league on target percentage is great
Yeah.
compared to Russell Wilson, who was 30th out of 41 QBs. So
Yeah.
that is just a ton of stuff that just shows like I would hope and pray that he gets a chance to start early and they
Yeah.
really like tailor the offense to him, and y'all should be able to flourish and for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's done where it's like we're giving people the benefit of the doubt, and things are happening because that's just the way the Steelers do things. I think Omar is starting to show where it's like he's gonna keep the main thing with how the Steelers do certain things. There's obviously culture with every team, so that's not going to change. But as far as like sitting in there in a certain situation for too long, I don't think that's going to happen anymore. So I don't think if there's a training camp and Justin blows it out of the water, or even just played a little bit better, I don't think there's let's give the vet the benefit. No, because why? Right? It's not like we're paying him the $35 million or the $39 million that the Broncos are
Right.
still paying him. We're paying him that
Yeah.
1.2.
Yeah.
So it's like there is no there's no incentive
Loyalty.
to have to do that, the
Yeah.
loyalty to have to do that. So yeah, I think he just has to do his thing, and then the rest is just going to be up to him. So
Hell yeah. But yeah, you wanna transition into free
yeah,
agency?
let's do that.
All right. Alrighty. You want to start us off? What were you thinking?
Yeah. So I just talking about needs versus wants for our teams before April 25th, before the draft.
Yeah.
A lot of when you look at ESPN or NFL Network or even some analysts that are on Twitter, a lot of the needs that are coming up for Steelers is just center. Obviously, we released Mason Cole. We don't have a true center on the team right now. So there's literally no one to, hike or, for Justin or for Russ at this point. We have a couple guards who played center, I think, in college, but that's, these dudes are almost like 30, so it's been a while for them. So I would say a need, definitely center. I think we had one visit from, I think his name is Mitch Morse, the Bills center, but he left and he ended up, signing with the Jags. And so after that, we haven't really had any other centers in the building. And so now it's kind of getting to the point where I think that's one of the positions that we're going to take in the draft, because I know Connor Williams, the Dolphins center, he's coming off an ACL injury, and that was going to be kind of like one of our options. But now I kind of saw some things where he's debating retiring from that because of that injury. So that, I think, is out the door with us. So I think that's something that definitely, correlates from what everyone's saying. And then obviously wide receiver now, we traded Deontay. He was our wide receiver too, but he's, a one on a lot of teams, obviously. Probably already the one on
easily,
on the Panthers as of right now. So
my Panthers.
right, your Panthers. So yeah, definitely with that. Obviously, there's still time to trade. We've been linked to Brandon Ayuk, Terry McLaurin. I don't think any of those big things are going to happen. I think we're going to get more of like a wide receiver 2-3 guy. Tyler Boyd, he's a Pitt dude, went to Pitt from the area. That's a possibility at this point. But I feel like we need to add at least one dude before if we get a guy at 20 that's going to be a real legit dude. I think we got to at least add one before the draft. So that's another one. I definitely agree with that. And then right tackle and slot corner. And so right now, Broderick Jones, our first round pick from last year, is our right tackle. He's a left tackle. We moved him just because he's an athletic dude, and he showed a lot of promise last year as a rookie. So they say he's like an athletic freak. So him doing that is something that is in his tool set. But Omar did say at the end of the season that he was a left tackle to be drafted, or he was a left tackle that was drafted that is going to be a left tackle. So him saying that to me is they're planning on moving him back to left tackle. Because our left tackle is Dan Moore. We drafted him in 2021, and he hasn't been very promising. He gives up a lot of sacks. He has a lot. I think he has the most penalties for our line altogether, and so the dude's just not consistent. And so I definitely feel like that's a big, especially having whoever's going to be back there, Russ or Justin. You just can't have your left side be the weak side. You just, So, and then slot cornerback. Before we, did the trade with Kenny, and we were able to acquire, or I should say, with the Panthers, and acquire Dante Jackson. We only had Joey Porter Jr. as a corner, and so we have Dante. I think he'll be pretty decent in our system, but we still do need a slot corner. We did release Levi Wallace, which was one of our slot corners, and then James Pierre was a corner four for us. He just got picked up by the Commanders, so we have some holes there. So I definitely agree with the slot cornerback for the needs, but as far as my wants, I would say center as well, because you gotta have someone that's gonna snap the ball to your quarterback. So that's definitely, I hate that we kind of pigeonholed, I would say, ourselves into not just letting the league kind of know what we're gonna do, but we actually have to do this now because there's no answer in free agency, and we have no center on the roster. So this is something that no matter what has to get taken care of
for sure
in the draft, and you want it to be a good, decent dude that you don't have to worry about for probably like a decade. So I would say that's probably the look at 20. Maybe Jackson Powers Johnson, guy out of Oregon.
That's what I've been seeing. Some,
yeah. Then there's a Frazier out of West West Virginia. He's a he's a guy that most people like. He has a wrestling background. I think they said he was going to state all 4 years. And so
Mm.
obviously a lot of football coaches like the wrestling background, especially when you're a lineman. And so Zach Frazier is his name. And so there's those options. But my second want is right tackle, man. I know a lot of Steelers fans want wide receiver taken care of, but I think because of how well we have drafted that position, I don't think I'm too worried about what Omar has in store for that, because we've never had an issue really, drafting that position. But I just want our line to be shored up for whoever this, quarterback is going to be for us. And I think it's only fair that they go into that situation knowing that they're protected. There is no holes in that situation. So I would definitely say that. And then I would say wide receiver. This wide receiver class is kind of like how they talk about the offensive tackle class. It's, it's very deep. And so whether we take one at 20 or, in the second round, we have 2/3 as well. There's a lot of dudes who are going to go on day 2 that, they could turn into, wide receiver ones in their rookie season, possibly for whoever team. And so I'm not too worried about that, but I would definitely have that as my third one. I'm not too worried about cornerback. We do have some guys that we picked up off of waivers at the end of the season. Darius Rush, he was a rookie. He kind of bounced around his rookie year, but we got him. He's 6'3", big corner. He has some speed to him. Our 7th round draft pick from last year, Corey Trice out of Purdue. He tore his ACL in camp last year. He's 6'3". He's a big guy that he's said to be healthy. So got to see what's up with him. And then Kalen Barnes out of Baylor. He 6 foot dude. He ran, I think, that 4.32 in the draft last year. And so a lot of what people were saying is that the Steelers had to get faster on the back end because the fastest dude was Joey Porter Jr. and Minka, but the rest of them were all like sub 4.5, 4.6 dudes. So, I'm not too worried about cornerback there. I think we'll be set with that, but just excited to see, what we do, and hopefully they do their due diligence and just, shore up the line, because I do believe that whoever QB1 is, they deserve at least to have that settled before, week 1.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, and you got a whole new offense coming in too, so definitely want to make sure that line is shored up and all that's taken care of, so you can just enter the year and hit the ground running.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of similar in a way. We have some good pieces on our O-line, obviously, but we kind of lost 2 positions in a way, or 2. Not, I guess we lost 1 position, but like our offense is going to change now because Cam Jurgens is reportedly going to be the new center. Okay. He was our right guard last year, so that's 2 moves because Kelsey's gone, so we have all new center, and we're going to need a new guard, and we kind of lost some of our guard, or like our interior depth. Sua Opeta signed elsewhere. Jack Driscoll, I think, signed with the Dolphins or something. Right. So Saquon's a good pass blocker, but he ain't playing guard. So
right.
We signed Matt Hennessy, who should be a good piece. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Eagles like drafted a tackle who can play inside too, in case we need someone to play guard, tackle, or be like a Lane Johnson replacement down the line. So I probably would have liked to see the Eagles maybe address O-line a little more in free agency, but signing Matt Hennessy isn't a terrible move. But in terms of like needs, a big one for me was receiver 3, and we signed Devontae Parker, who is bottom of the league every single year, if not the worst in the league at separation, getting separation. He can jump up and get contested balls, but that's all he can do. He cannot separate. Nothing about his route speed, anything can get him open on the field. He's just more of like a jump ball guy. But recently, we signed Paris Campbell, which was a player that reportedly they were interested in drafting, but the actual reports. Some of the reports that I saw was that the Eagles were about to draft Paris Campbell in that 2019 draft, I want to say, and then our owner Jeffrey Lurie got involved, and that's when they decided to draft JJ Arcega-Whiteside instead.
Wow.
So if that is accurate, then that is very upsetting. One,
No, that's
because
scary.
I don't like when owners are too hands on. First of all, the Eagles are a well run organization, but like when it comes to stuff like that, I'd rather leave it to the guys you hired. I don't need the owner making second round picks for us.
For what?
Right. But also, it's just not great because that was just a clear miss, and you saw it right away. I remember we talked about it. I was like, oh yeah, funny enough, I kind of thought he could be like a Devontae Parker type guy who could win some jump balls and do stuff like that. But he was just.
I watched a lot of Pac-12
bust.
that year, so I knew that was not even a dude that like I just happened to see his highlights or went on my own. Like I saw a lot of his games live, and I was just like, he was like very decent in college, but like he absolutely no speed whatsoever, and so nothing flashy. So I kind of knew that going into that.
Yeah, and then another obvious need is linebacker. We signed Zach Bond, and then Devin White, of course. Who Devin White we presume is going to be a starter out there with Nakobe Dean. But that is huge need. It has been for years, and I'm curious to see this draft if the Eagles' philosophy has changed in terms of like how they address linebacker, because it's been an issue for a long time, but it's just a position that they just don't value and don't really address highly, So we'll see. Maybe they surprise us all and get a linebacker in the second round, or maybe even in the first. Maybe they trade back and then get a linebacker late first. I don't know, but that's a huge
draft
need.
is not the greatest this year, but
right.
It's like whoever's going to need those dudes, you might just have to battle out with them, but it shouldn't be too many teams. But yeah,
and safety's a position that I've been like begging the Eagles to draft for like a decade now, and like early, like one of like Justin Reed was a player coming out that I was like, oh, I know he's going to be good. Like the Eagles can get him, and they didn't, and he's good. Like it's stuff like that kills me, because it's like I feel like it's such an important position, especially in this defense. Like the Vic Fangio defense, safeties and linebackers are going to have to make a ton of plays in the run game and in coverage. So I really
How would you feel about Cooper DeJean if he gets moved to safety?
I honestly wouldn't mind it. He's a good athlete. I've watched some film on him. I haven't dove too deep into him, but he's a great athlete actually, and a good player. Even if he stays at corner, and that's another low key high need for us. Is corner.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Corner,
because we have Slay and James Bradbury, but they're on the older side. Bradbury showed us, he really doesn't have it towards the end of last year. So corner, safety, linebacker were needs going into free agency, and there's still needs now, which is not great. We got depth in some positions, but that's just one of those things that we definitely need. And there's still like reports out there that the Eagles are contacting Justin Simmons, still trying to sign him, which would be a great piece to add.
I'm surprised he's still on the board.
Yeah, which hopefully is a good sign, meaning like maybe he's not getting the market he wants, and he'll just kind of settle and sign with us. He ranked 5th in forcing tight window throws when lined up at the safety position last year per Next Gen Stats. So just a ball hawk, always playing high football, like high level football, and had some of his best years under Vic Fangio. So I think that would be a great signing for us.
I agree.
Yeah. So that is some of the needs and wants. I guess that was more needs, but what I want, I think my wants align with our needs.
Same with mine. I think
if I had to rank it, I guess I'd say safety, corner, then
Back.
linebacker. Yeah, but they're all
Okay.
huge needs at
Okay.
once. Yeah.
Well, I think we can transition into just the grind my gear segment and stuff.
Yeah.
Segment on the show where we just gonna talk about some things in the league that really just bother us and that we don't understand why it's a thing. And so
Whatever Twitter narratives or whatever things in the league going on, we just want to yap about. So yeah, let's transition into that. All right. You wanna start us off? I'm excited for yours. What you got?
Man, okay, something that just grinds my gears that, well, I guess not, past tense. This is something that just is starting to be a thing. The hip drop tackle.
Oh yeah.
Man, this is something that actually it actually makes me upset, especially being a former player and being someone who was being tackled. I just don't understand what their philosophy behind even calling it that. Even that to me was just like, what they're making it seem like it's like a move, like they're doing the hip drop move. Like, what are you even talking about, man? That's the
Right.
only
Is
way
this
to tackle
wrestling?
somebody. Right. That's the only
Yeah.
way to tackle somebody who has, broken away from you. And so obviously a lot
Yeah.
of these dudes, world class speed, man. But sometimes you got world class speed on defense, but you're asking these dudes to do what? How are you supposed to tackle someone who's already ahead of you? And
Right.
so I know they're trying to take away where, the hip and your knee could get caught up and all that, but like now you're kind of putting the defensive players in a position where they got to do something kind of, quirky and weird just to get the dude down that they can now get injured. And let's also not forget, like, some of these dudes, the safeties and the corners, they're smaller guys. You know what I mean? You're having to chase a DK Metcalf, who runs a
Right.
4.3, and this dude is 6'4", 240. That is the only way you're getting a DK Metcalf on the ground, even if you can even do it by doing that. But what do you
Yeah.
expect to do? Come from the side so he can just stiff arm you into the turf, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So something like that is just like, when it comes to stuff like that, the players, I think, need to be asked about what they think about it. And if it makes zero sense, which this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, it needs to just be thrown away. We did the same thing with the tush push. That was a whole different other thing, but it's just like, how are you going to take away the quarterback sneak just because they found a different way to do a quarterback sneak? It doesn't,
Right.
you know what I
It's like,
mean?
yeah, it's like the trendy thing to like talk about, but it's no different. Yeah, Tom Brady was amazing at it for 20 years. There was no issue. All of a sudden, it's an issue. What are we doing? Same with
Yeah,
that type of tackle. That's been a thing. People have. There's
for
only two ways
forever.
to tackle. You either use your body weight or you use their body weight. There's no other way to get someone on the ground besides those two
Right. And
ways.
they're just gonna
And the
they're
hip
gonna
drop,
create.
it's just an unfortunate like incident when it happens, but it's not like
Right.
players are out there intendingly trying to hurt someone.
No, and that's what all football is. There always
Right.
can be crazy things that
Right.
happen. When people get rolled up on and stuff like that, and them trying to take every single thing out the game to try to make the game as safe as possible. It's like, bro, football is not safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And
things
no
that,
and yeah.
yeah,
And
man, like going across
no
the
one out
middle
there.
and all that
Yeah.
stuff is understandable, and the neck injuries, that's all that makes sense. But at a certain point, it's like, bro, you're playing football. This sport itself is not safe, and
Yeah.
so that's just something that grinds my gears. I really hope it gets thrown out and we never talk about this again, because it should never be
Yeah.
talked about ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. No one in the league is trying to hurt someone else intentionally. Like I mean, there may be a few guys, but like it's really very uncommon. Like the first
Right.
thing dudes say when they dap each other up after games, before games, is like, stay healthy.
I ain't mean that.
That's what
Yeah.
they say
Yeah.
every time. They say,
Right.
stay healthy, bro. I'll see you next week. Blah
Right.
blah blah. That's the first thing they always say. No one's ever trying to, because that's how they make a living. You're not trying to like
Right.
take that away from someone who's in that same fraternity. It's a very small
Yeah.
like fraternity of
And I also
brotherhood
think
and shit.
last thing I'll say about it is just like,
Yeah.
when it's not something that the players are asking for an example, players have asked, can we play on grass? And it's like,
Right.
nobody cares. Now that's something, turf versus grass, that has actually ruin people's careers, taking away from the fans, since it's all about the tickets and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's
you want to talk
stuff
about
that's
player
happening.
safety? Yeah,
Why not adhere to what they're asking with that? But we had random people, I don't know who was the first person to say, this hip drop tackle, man. And I know I know it was someone who never played the game, because even dudes on offense have come out and said, like, what are you even talking about? What is even the hip drop tackle? It's a regular
yeah,
tackle.
yeah.
And we don't expect these dudes to be able to tackle us any other way. And so
Right.
I'll just say that I hope, the players are asked about it, and it's just never talked about again, because it's, to me, I'm sorry, it's just corny. And, football is
Yeah,
football. So, and people who have
yeah,
played the game understand that. So,
yeah. We can't even officiate fucking pass interference, right? Like, there's no way they're gonna be able to even call this correctly in the league. So yeah, I'm
right.
with you. I'm with you on that. Mine is a PSA announcement to Bears fans. Bears fans, I need you to fucking relax, okay? Like, the minute Justin Fields got traded, all I was seeing on Twitter from Bears fans is, oh, well, Caleb Williams better take us to the playoffs, no less than 10 wins, or else. Or else what? Jim from Chicago, what are you going to do?
Right.
Like, I like Justin Fields. I think he still has a chance to be successful in the league. He didn't take it to the playoffs once in 3 years. He didn't win the division once in 3 years. And you're
Right.
asking a rookie to come in and win 10 plus games and take you to the playoffs, or else he's a bust. Like, that is so rare, so uncommon. Like, CJ Stroud is an outlier. And
Yes.
when he came to the league, he didn't have these expectations on him. Caleb has high expectations for himself, and people are putting them on them. But we don't need to add more and say he better do this or else. Like, your division isn't that bad in terms of like a rookie can just come in there and immediately. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, but you still have the Packers and the Vikings who are going to be competing to win that division. It's not like a cakewalk to win the NFC North. And I
The
just,
Lions too. Can't forget about
yeah,
the
oh yeah,
Lions.
yeah, the Lions, yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
So,
I would say the
you know,
Vikings are probably in a hard spot because they don't really have a QB yet or anything like that. But
right.
like, yeah, for them to have to compete with the Packers and the Lions when they're already on the rise, it's gonna be hard. I think as long as you see the positives from Caleb, be happy with that. But yeah,
Yes.
no, I
Yes.
definitely know what you're talking about.
And
I've seen that stuff too.
and that's why, me and you, we talked about it off air, but that's why I like the Keenan Allen move, because like you're trying to set him up as best as you can because you did it for Justin Fields. So let's
Right.
just hope for maybe a wild card spot, maybe win the division. That would be great. But like, to demand this from Caleb Williams before he even has been drafted to your team, or else the amount of times that's all, or else just bothered the shit out of me from Bears fans. And I
Yeah.
just really didn't understand it, because like most teams, if Caleb is what we think he is, like your teams are praying to get a QB like a Mahomes, like a Josh Allen for 10 plus years. You're gifted
Right.
one because you traded with the Panthers last year, and you're gifted Caleb Williams. Most teams don't get 2 first round picks every year. You do. You're
No.
gifted Caleb Williams. And now you're saying if he doesn't do this in his rookie year, he's a bust. Like,
Right.
let's just fucking relax and let him get drafted and take your team to wherever he takes it. But,
Right.
I don't think Justin Fields has done enough in the league for people to already like
Expect
pray on
that.
Caleb's downfall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that really grinded my gears about the shit out of me this past week. So
Yeah.
let's hope come draft time I don't have to hear shit like that. But that was
Yeah.
just my shit
I'm
for
sure
the
it's only
week.
going to get worse, especially if there's some type of, you know, hard spots for him, especially being a rookie. It's going to happen the first couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll see that happening, but hopefully when this time next year, it won't be that type of narrative.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I got. That's all. You good? You good here?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Catch us next week on the Steelbirds podcast. Follow me on Instagram, all that, Twitter. It's your boy CK. Follow Brock. What's your handles again? I always forget.
Brock_IV on
Yeah.
everything.
Yep. So holler at us there, and we will catch you next week. Peace.
Peace.